What's happening, YouTube? Back in the day gamer here. Thanks for tuning into my channel, and today I'm coming at you with the games I beat in 2021. So, this glorious but not triumphant pile represents all the games I beat last year. I really wanted to beat 50 games, but it didn't happen. I did beat some bangers, so let's get into it. Coming out of the gate strong, first game I beat in 2021 was one I'd wanted for a long time. Finally picked it up about a week before I beat it. I think I beat it the very first day I played it because it was so much fun, I couldn't put it down. That's Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu, to be exact. It's kind of a pricey NES game. You never hear anybody talk about it. What I like about it, other than it's fun, is large sprites. I always like large sprites. This has them in spades. Wasn't too difficult of a game. There was a couple of boards that were a little rough, and the end ended up being not too difficult either. Definitely glad to have this one in the collection and to put that feather in my cap. Game number 2 I beat for the year is one that I'm not terribly fond of, at least not as much as everyone else, and that is very unpopularly Super Mario 3. I know, hang me. He doesn't like Super Mario 3. It is a good game, but it's just played out, and I don't know. I never pop it in. That's why until now I hadn't beat it, but I was like, you know what? We gotta check some of these big ones off the list, and checked it off I did. Then for some reason, I decided I wanted to play Tecmo Bowl. This is a fun game that everyone has or had. You don't play it that often. Great two-player game with your buddy, as long as he doesn't pick Bo Jackson. I breezed through it in a couple hours. Sometimes you get the right teams in the right order, and the season ends up not being too difficult, and that's how this season of Tecmo Bowl played out. Then I decided to throw some handhelds in the mix, and Double Dragon on the Game Boy was up next. So I'm not saying this is an awesome game, but it was better than I expected it to be. It pretty much perfectly represents what you would think the handheld version of the NES game would be. It's not a port of the NES game. It's a little bit different. This game didn't give me too much difficulty. And to be honest, I don't remember that much about it, but I liked the graphics. It looked a lot like the NES game, and I'm a big fan of the NES game. Giving Double Dragon on the Game Boy a thumb up. Then I felt like it was time to take Mega Man down. This is my original cart from back in the day. It's beat to shit. I know I picked it up used, probably for $5 at one time. It's not nearly as good as Mega Man 2, which is the one I had the most experience with up until this point. Even though I'd had Mega Man 1 for a long time, just wasn't a huge fan of it. But I found it really difficult, so I buckled down and kicked its ass. Felt like giving the handheld some more love, so we went with Gremlins 2. So this is definitely a fun game. I found it hard as hell. Part towards the end, not the end board, but oh my god, where you're kind of blind, you only get to see a little touch of his feet or something. That part was so fucking difficult. Just heart attack givingly frustrating. I absolutely had no fun getting through that part. But I remember for days leaving it on, I'm like, I'm fucking beating this board, I don't care. Just wasted several days in a row, getting super frustrated. Finally beat it. End boss was kind of difficult as well. If they'd ramped down the difficulty in those two parts, I'd say this is a stellar game. But as it being so difficult, I'm gonna say I am never playing this fucking game again. Since I had just taken down number 1, I'd obviously beaten 2. It was time to go for 3. Mega Man 3, my least favorite of the top 3. I found it rather easy, didn't take me long to play through it. Sure, there were some tough parts. I obviously had no experience with it, previously, so I didn't know which weapons you were supposed to use against which enemies to make it easier. Not knowing that upped the difficulty a bit, but it still didn't give me too much trouble. Took it down. By now I figured it was time to play some 16-bit goodness, so we jumped over to the Super Nintendo for a game that a buddy of mine across the street had back in the day. Not sure why he ever had it, because it's a really strange title, especially for way back then. I scored it at my very first Midwest Gaming Classic, because I knew I had to have it, and that is Legend of the Mystical Ninja. It is definitely in the top tier of the games I beat in 2021. Everything about it's fun. It's a super cool game. Nobody ever talks about it. It's cheap. There was some bosses that gave me difficulty, but obviously I ended up taking it down. It's here in this video. You can grind for coin to buy things. You know I love me some RPG mechanic, and I give this game 2 thumbs up. On to the first Game Gear game I've ever beaten, and that is Ren and Stimpy Quest for the Shaven Yak. This game is not awesome. I'd always been a fan of Ren and Stimpy back in the day. Saw it, picked it up, had some fun with it. Graphics aren't great. Wasn't a horrible game. Not gonna get rid of it, but I don't know that it's gonna get much play in the future. So it's time for some RPG goodness. I thought I'd start off soft and easy, so Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. I gotta be honest, I liked this game more than I thought I would. I had played it back in the day, my buddy Brian across the street. I didn't remember much of it other than I didn't like it nearly as much as 2. I know everybody talks about it as being a complete hand-holding, just kiddie game, so that's why I hadn't played it for so long. But, to be honest, there was some parts that actually gave me difficulty. I don't know if I missed a clue or something, but had to do some backtracking. Other than that, the game is a breeze. I had fun with it. It's staying in the collection. I'll probably play through it again one day, but not necessarily anytime soon. So I don't give this guy enough play. He's always under the table. I forget about him. It was time to rock out some arcade. So I gave Bucky O Hare a playthrough. I don't think I'd honestly ever played this one. Maybe a few minutes here and there at Galloping Ghost. It's an alright game. Visually it looks good. Total quarter muncher. There was some just bullet hell insanity parts. I don't necessarily recommend this game, but I had fun with the one playthrough that I'll ever give it. Going from an arcade game I didn't so much like, over to one that I really like. Dungeons and Dragons, Tower of Mystera. Whatever the hell it's called. This game is pretty badass. I had absolutely played it in the arcade back in the day. Always loved it. When it came out I was pretty young. I never had that much money to pump enough quarters into it to beat it. The Red Dragon battle was awesome. Visually that was just kick ass. Really, really liked that. One of my favorite boss battles in any arcade game. But this game itself was a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a quarter muncher, but I'm a D&D fan. So since we'd played through number 3, we had to get my favorite installment of the series out of the way. Super Mario 2. Definitely my favorite in the trilogy. I'm not sure what it is about it so much. Maybe it's the nostalgia, but I really like this game. I can remember when it came out back in the day, it was just like insanity. You couldn't get it anywhere because one was so crazy popular. Buddy's buddy had it. First time I ever played it, went over to his house, instantly hooked. Then somebody got it for Christmas, and from then on, snowballed. Everybody had it. I don't think I'd honestly ever beat it. I really, really like the end boss. Had a ton of fun with this game. Next up, hands down, best game I played in 2021. Favorite game out of all the ones here I've beat and all the ones I played. Epic game from my childhood. One of my all-time favorites to this day. Finally took it down. Final Fantasy II. Obviously, I'm an RPG guy, and this one is way, way up there on the top of the list. It's the first game I can ever think about that made me give a shit about the soundtrack. Like everything about this game. Go on and talk about it for hours. You don't have that much time and you don't care that much. Final Fantasy II game of the year for me. Realize it came out 30... Oh! Angry Baby's here! Alright, that always helps, right? So yeah, that's my game of the year right here. Final Fantasy II. After that, I had to throw in a shooter that same friend across the street, Brian. What's up, Brian? He had Final Fantasy II. We always play that at his house. He also had this game. Not a shooter fan. And this one is tough as nails on the NES. Finally... Oh, no. He doesn't like shooters either. But it doesn't matter, because we beat this one. Xanac. Back in the day, Brian and I used to play the shit out of this game. It is tough as nails. Total bullet hell shooter. It was just on my backlog of games I needed to beat. And I did. Next game is a game I like, but you probably hate. Angry Baby's back, and he's angry. I'm not sure if he likes this one, let's find out. But I know I like it. Back to the Future. So I'd like this game from day one. Yes, I can see why other people don't like it so much. Hurts the shit out of your thumbs. Yeah, the graphics aren't the best, but I've always liked it. Buddy of mine, Eric, this was one of his original games. We've been playing this since it came out. You know, it's pretty damn tough. So we definitely had never beaten it. I know, I always liked Lou's Cafe. Lou's Cafe was always so damn fun. Kind of like Root Beer Tapper. Always enjoyed playing it, which was good because back in the day, we didn't get past it very often. So there was a lot of Lou's Cafe action going on. But finally took this one down. I got to the end board many times. Sometimes the lightning bolts just end up screwing you. This time, play through the whole game like a snap. Boom. First time I got to the end board, shot right through it easy. So, all the times in the past when I got to it is really difficult. This time, not at all. Next game on the list is awesome. It's either my number 2 or 3 game, I think, of the year. Same guy that had Back to the Future. Eric. What's up, Eric? Also had this one. You don't hear enough about it. And it's a stellar game. On the NES. Willow. So not many licensed games are that good, but this one absolutely is. It's a killer RPG. It's a lot like Zelda, and in many ways, just hear me out, in many ways, it's better than Zelda. There's a much larger selection of weapons and whatnot to collect, which is always fun for me in a game. I really like the graphics, I really like the gameplay, I really like the enemies, I like the story. There was a couple parts that ended up being super cryptic where I had to do a lot of backtracking, but that tends to happen in 8-bit RPGs. So get off your ass and pick up a copy of Willow for like $10, because it's a stellar game. Next one on the list is not stellar, not at all, but I thought it'd be an easy takedown, so I threw it in there. Mickey Mouse Capades! Yeah, well, gotta keep checking these games off. There is a lot of filler out there. Not only do I want to collect every NES game, but I'd also like to one day beat all of them. That means playing turds like this. So now it's checked off the list. Here's a game that's very middle of the road. Like I said, not a huge shooter fan, but this one was kind of easy. Stinger. A little bit better of filler than Mickey Mouse Capades, but wasn't the worst game of the year by any means, that's for sure. This one I'd played a handful of times. Got pretty far, couldn't quite do it. This time buckled down, made sure I got it. Ask the Annex. I like this game. It's fun. Large sprites, large enemy bosses, which for the most part were really freaking crazy. The end boss was pretty simple, but this game, all in all, was good. It's slightly above average. I can see myself one day playing it again. Moving on to the only Sega Master System game on this list, which is unfortunate because I'm a big Sega Master System fan. I have a large library, but that game is in the other room because it doesn't fit here. And they're kind of ugly because the white clamshells. Just, but anyhow, that game, Kung Fu Kid. This was a strange game to get used to, but I kind of got hooked, and I kept playing through it. Took me a few days playing here and there. Not the greatest game in the world by any means. Above average for Sega Master System titles. I had fun with it. I could definitely see playing it again, but I doubt most of you have ever even heard of this game. So we'll just go ahead and move on to the absolute most mind-numbingly frustrating game I've ever fucking played in my life. It is, for some ungodly reason, one of my favorites. It's none other than this poster right here up on the wall. Ghosts and Goblins. If you follow my channel at all, I'm sure you're aware that I finally beat this fucking game. I love it. It's an awesome game. It's one of my favorites. I remember it being one of the games I wanted more than any game ever back in the day. This is my original cart. I've had it since way back then, and it took me until now to beat. And I can say with 99% certainty that I will never beat this fucking game again. If you remember my videos, left the fucking Nintendo on for like 6 days in a row because it just took me hours and hours every night just grinding, trying to do it, getting a little farther, a little farther. There was the time when I got screwed and should have beat it, but honestly the end boss is nothing. Beat him. First time ever got to him, done. Thank God, because I didn't want to have to go through any of that again. But it's not the end boss that's difficult, it's that last fucking board. And I don't ever want to play that board again. I'll play this game, absolutely. Love it. Definitely gonna play it a whole lot. But I don't ever want to play that last board ever, ever, ever again. So, from killer to filler, Fisher Price, I can remember. Yeah, so picked it up at MGC because I needed it. Figure after killing myself on Ghosts and Goblins, we'll toss something in that we could just pound through. And obviously I did, because I'm 40 some years old. So I can beat an 8-bit children's game the first time I play it. That's right. Next up is a stellar game. Probably the best Game Boy Advance game I'd ever played. Did a little review on it. Feel free to check that out. For as good as a game as this is, you never hear about it. Not sure why, but it's a great, great, great game. It's basically a Disney version of Resident Evil, and that's Monster House. I'd heard Dongled do a dude, have you heard of this game review on it. Looked killer, picked it up, thought it'd be a good Halloween game to play. Never got around to it until now, but that's unfortunate because this game is stellar. I think I paid $6 for it. $6 well spent. We keep jumping from killer to filler to killer to more filler. Another Game Boy Advance game. Perfection Connect 4 Trouble. Next title. Homebrew. That I pre-ordered. Love this game. It's either my number 3 or 4 game for the year. Zelda clone. I've been getting into homebrews lately. The past few months picked up like 6 of them. All of them I liked a lot. This one being the best of them, and that is, it's gonna glare us to death, isn't it? Nope. Anguna, Scourge of the Goblin King. This is a Zelda clone that I had a ton of fun with. Liked everything about it. Keeping positive, because it's very positive. The graphics could have been a little better. And the game itself only took me 3 hours to beat. So that's a little disappointing to me, because I had built it up so much, heard good things, really looked forward to it, and I did like it a lot. But I was so into it, I just played right through the game, first sitting, 3 hours. Boom! Done! Coming up to the final game I beat in 2021. My goal for the year was to beat 50 games. I fell short by 23, because this is the 27th game of the year that I beat, and it is, it's filler. It's no Fisher Price. It's no Mickey Mouse Capades. It's the Three Stooges. This is one that's been on the backlog for a while. I'm not sure why. Used to play it at my buddy Eric's house back in the day. who had Back to the Future and Willow, and this was another one. Always liked the soup eating board. Making that one the 27th game of the year I beat. Like I said, my goal was 50. I really want the thumbnail to be a stack of games as high as I am. But that's what's going to happen here in 2022. I am already off to a good start. Beat a couple of stellar titles. If you follow me on the social medias, you already knew that. If you don't, follow me on the social medias. I got Facebook, I got Twitter, I got Instagram. I think I like Instagram the best. So once again, you have the pile of games that I beat in 2021. As usual, thanks for tuning into my channel. I really appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. And until next time, YouTube, keep it retro!